All right, welcome to 13.12 of League of Legends. I am Chris, and I am joined by my longtime patch review duo partner, Jason.
I'm back, and good to be here with you, man. It's 1312, or as I like to call it, the treat the symptoms, don't cure the disease patch. Because there's a lot of things I do like here, but there's a couple real head scratchers.
Yeah, we were going to have a third person, but they flaked out on us. Nate has for sure said he's going to be in the next one, though, so that's cool. Okay, let's hop right into it. First up, we have. Does this mean
Ash?
anything with the money? I didn't even know mid laners made less money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they just a few months ago decided that mid laners should make less money and took 1 gold off. I remember I was ranting about that and how it just made it so unclear, like how much money you were going to get from minions at any given point in the game. Why am I getting this weird odd number? And yeah, they're restoring that probably because they did the thing recently with the mid lane minions and the top and bottom lane minions crashing at the same time until like 14 minutes. So mid laners have a hard time roaming, and at least they get their 1 gold back on the minions.
Alright, let's try to get through this video without it taking like an hour and a half. Okay, next up we got Ash, who
You're asking the wrong people for that.
does have some interesting changes. This first one in particular is actually a lot more impactful than it would otherwise appear, because if you've played Ash, you know that every shot after her first one is a guaranteed critical strike. So her passive, in a way, functions like the passive on Infinity Edge. The more critical strike chance she gets, the more critical strike multiplier on her auto attacks grows. So this just going up by a 5% baseline, and it was 110 for a long time, and it got buffed another time. This is a big deal for Ashe. I'm all down for buffs on Ashe. She's kind of difficult to play in the modern era, but she is very snowbally, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely not one of the biggest beneficiaries of the crazy on hit meta. So that might be why they're buffing her now. But this was a little surprising to me in that it seems like, particularly with the all game long damage increase on volley, it seems like they're actually trying to buff support Ashe even more than ADC Ashe. Obviously, both of them will be happy with this.
I think they probably realized that they've nerfed volley like 12 times, and it's not really that strong of a skill, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the one thing that keeps getting nerfed all the time. It is really annoying being poked like every 6 seconds with that, and you think
Yeah.
you're out of the way, but then it just clips you.
It's not exactly like Graves' Q or anything. you know? It was always more utilitarian, I would think, than damage.
Um,
Really doesn't do that
all you're
much.
talking about, or the or just her whole kit?
Volley.
Value to I mean, yeah, later in the game the slow is really nice. But
Just
early on,
doesn't
I think you're
scale very
usually just
well.
using that for poke damage.
And then the silly change, and this must be because of Ginsu's, I guess. Even though if you have Ginsu's, you can't crit. How that interacts with Ash's passive, I'm not 100% sure, but I would surmise that it can't possibly be as good as Infinity Edge, which is basically mandatory on Ashe, which will make her eventually crit harder than any other standard AD carry by
Yeah,
nature
I
of her
don't.
passive. So this is just goofiness. It's been the same for like 13 years. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think that Gwynsu's is something you would ever build on Ash. Maybe with the right support, but yeah, not usually.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
next up we got Gangplank, and I've never really been a fan of Gangplank's like last two reworks, to be honest. I kind of liked. Yeah, I wish they just rework him again. I'm just not a fan of the barrel mechanic. It just you have to put so much time into Gangplank to get anything out of him these days. He's a very high skill cap champion. He's very just inconsistent. So I guess as far as the barrel minigame goes, this will be more forgiving.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do put the time in with Gangplank, it's very satisfying to blow someone from 100 to 10 HP or 100 to 10% with one auto attack on your barrels from like 1,300 units away.
That's true, but he just needs so
Yeah.
much like AFK farm and
Here's the
items to
reason
get to
why I
that
think
point.
he needed a buff here, though. Really, except for the fact that on-hit ADCs are so ridiculously, absurdly powerful right now. Um, if not for that, tanks would be in the single best place they've ever been, probably in League of Legends. Certainly the best place since Season 4. And Gangplank, yeah, he can get through the tanks. He can do enough damage to, blow up a tank after a few combos.
He's
But
terrible against
the
tanks.
tanks are in such a good place that they can fight him. They can just kill him much more easily than ever before. And even if you just want heavy damage from the top lane, there's ADCs and marksmen all over the map that can do what he does to tanks, but even better. So yeah, Gangplank just was kind of really overshadowed, I'd say, by ADCs more than anything. And that's why I think for the first time in a little while now, he's getting a buff.
Yeah, me and Jason the other day were talking about a new YouTube series we want to do, and Gangplank would definitely be one of my first things I'd want to talk about because I
Ooh.
think I've got a lot of good ideas for how he could be just as thematic, but way more exciting. And I hate to use this word accessible. I just feel like he's one of those champions that's so inaccessible to most players, and it's not the same like Rengar or Azir. He's like someone you really have to like dump in just ages to play really well,
Yeah.
and he's just so wildly inconsistent.
Well, look forward to our little think tank on that then.
Don't know if he'll be the first one I pick, but we have said that Blitzcrank is going to be our first one we're going to do, though.
Well, now that you've said who it is, why don't we just mention what the actual series is going to be?
Yeah, why don't you talk about it? I guess I did say we wouldn't mention who the first one was. Whatever, whatever.
I guess you could cut all this out if you want to. Whatever. Chrissy always does it on one go. Yeah, basically we're gonna be probably once a month as a bonus video on this channel. Gonna be doing a kind of like a think tank or a brainstorm where we try to fix up one of the problematic champions in League, or just one that we think we can make much more interesting. So we will go ahead and actually design a new kit for that champion, discuss how they would play and how it might be different from how they play now, and maybe even bring some numbers with it.
Yep. I don't think it's
First
just
one's gonna
problematic.
be Blitzcrank, and yeah, coming probably later this month or early next month.
Yeah. Okay, next up we got Gragas, and this is one of my favorite champions from the old days, so seeing the cooldown on his passive get nerfed kind of brings me to tears because it's really not that good. I can't imagine why they would mess with this after so long. It wasn't... You couldn't reduce this with ability haste, so increasing it by 4 seconds feels like a real bummer.
Yeah, I mean
The
that
only
is
thing I can think of is that he might have gotten played more in like the jungle or top lane, where this sustain that he gets basically for free is too obnoxious. But he's not really that great at trading, so I don't really think it is a big deal.
So I was kind of confused at this too at first because this is not a champion I see played very much in my games at all. But I was talking to my friend Tyler the other day, and he gave me the he gave me the 411 basically. He said that in professional play, that Gragas has actually just been like dominating every single game when built as a full tank.
Well, his
And
passive is more powerful when you have a lot of health.
yeah, that's probably why they took the shot at Happy Hour, because he's going to be able to restore his HP a lot less frequently now. But yeah, I like August as a champ. It's kind of sad to see him get nerfed, especially since I barely see him in the game at all right now, as it is.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't really think his kit is bad or problematic. Like, he'd be way down the list of champions I would pick to do that show on. I don't know what it is about him. He's just like, just not good enough to be top. He's kind of a little awkward in the jungle. He's a little goofy to go mid with. I don't know.
He is pretty disruptive, especially if he can just, survive an entire fight on the front line.
Okay.
I think his displacement ability, is it a displacement or a knockup? I'm talking about not the ultimate, the body slam.
It's a knockup.
Okay, I think the knockup ability like has been given much shorter cooldowns over time. I think they did buff that ability several times in the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
And to compensate that, they made his Q a little cheaper.
Yeah, this is clearly meant to be a nerf, and it is a nerf.
Okay, next up we got. I don't really feel like talking about Kaiser or Kha'Zix. Whatever.
Okay.
Next up, let's just talk about Kog'Maw since he has seen a big surge in popularity. Now, my personal opinion is Kog'Maw's always been kind of a nightmare late game champion. I'm not of the opinion that he's overtly beyond busted just because of the new items. I think he's always been very powerful at shredding people, just like Vayne in the late game. He always built Ginsu's anyway. You could say that the fact that it has like magic shred on it now is helping him out a lot, but I'm not really of the opinion that he's that much stronger considering how team dependent he is.
I've had Kog'Maw in about a dozen games since the Doom build, patch, and I believe Kog'Maw only lost 2 of those 12 games, and in one of them it was just from 2 other players, straight up inting, like screaming profanities at each other and then running into the enemy turret. So, besides that, Kog'Maw only lost 1 game. I've seen some really bad Kog'Maws, including ones on my team, including ones on the enemy team, win games basically just by, standing there in way too close of a range, autoing someone 3 times and watching them burst. I mean, it's probably more than 3 times, but it's like the space of time that should be 3 auto attacks. This champ is overpowered right now. They're taking away 0.5% at all levels of the target's maximum health. So if you're attacking a 4,000 HP target, your auto will do 20 damage less. But remember that Kraken Slayer is already doing 250 damage per hit.
A lot more than that.
I'm not talking about with Kraken Slayer. The whole thing is 250. I'm talking Kraken Slayer itself is doing 250.
That's just the first time it procs on you. It doubles after that.
Yeah, I guess by the time you've procced it 6 times, it's doing a lot more. Anyway, yeah, this is not going to stop Kog'Maw from being an absolute terror. This is almost meaningless to him right now. And basically, if you want Freelo, you should play Kog'Maw, because you don't even need to be good at him right now to get free wins with him.
I wouldn't really go that far. He is still insanely. He's still got insanely vulnerable champion. He's very team dependent. He has shit for peel. I mean, he's still a very vulnerable champion.
That is true. If you don't have tanks on your team and you don't have a support that can actually support, that's probably not a great place for Kog'Maw.
You can't just pick him up with no AD carry mechanics. You'll get blasted with him.
You actually can. You get blasted early game, and you will melt people late game, because all you need to do is stand there outside of people's range to engage on you, and you melt them before they can run away, and you melt them before they can engage. It's crazy.
I think he's always been crazy late game.
Not like he is now.
He's just not been as popular.
Not like he is now, dude.
Yeah, I think he's definitely better. Just not. I don't think he's too good though.
All right. The one thing I do like about this is we have a nice round even number at level 1 and level 5 now. That does make the skill a little easier to understand. So that's nice. But this is the tiniest step. This is like the man. This is like trying to bulldoze an entire building, taking a little pickaxe, knocking off one stone and being like, well, job's done for the day. Let's go get our union pay.
All right.
This is nothing. All
Next
right.
up, we got Cassante, and what is this? Is E?
This is
Okay.
just a yeah.
The shield. Yeah, you know, I've seen an increasing amount of like times where this champion wins a lot of surprising 1v1s. Apparently, he has a little more built-in damage than I originally thought he did. I still don't
Mhm.
think he's all that great. He's especially lackluster early game, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually pretty happy with the way he is right now. I still think his ultimate is a little janky, but I'm actually pretty happy with his state in the game right now.
Yeah, I've seen some really good Cassant players just dominate games with them. I've seen some poor Cassant players be useless to their team. So yeah, I think he's in a pretty good place right now. I'm not sure how big of a nerf this is going to be for him. Probably small, but not meaningless. Back when he only lost 65% of his resistances for going all out. That was maybe 5, 6, 7 patches ago. Like he was a menace. Now you really do need skill to play him well.
Okay, next up we
Hmm.
got Lucian, and this is the secondary part of his passive effect that he's only had for like, I don't know, a year or so. Kind of goes under the radar because he didn't have it for most of his lifetime, but it is really good with like enchanters and stuff, and it's taking a hit.
Oh
But
yeah, Lucian Nami
is
for a while.
yeah, as long as he still has it though, it'll still give him a lot more like oomph than he ever had for most of his lifetime. So the fact that it's taking a hit isn't really all that big of a deal. He'll still be in a much better spot than he was, and he's always a very strong early game threat.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like this is not going to stop him from playing well with enchanters early. Um, but of all the ADCs in the game right now that I would pick, Lucian would probably be bottom half.
Mm, I don't know. There's times where he seems really weak, and then there's times where he seems very above average snowbally, just by the unique way like his passive functions. I like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the more fun and unique ADCs in League.
He's one of my favorite. I think he's a good mix of like close to being a hyper carry, but still flexible enough to where you don't have to commit as hard to do a lot of your damage.
Right.
Yeah, I like him.
And I'm sure, any AD carry with the kind of dash that he has is going to be fun to play for a lot of people.
Yep. Okay. Next up, why don't you take us through these changes, Jason? I'm a huge Lulu player myself, but I know you've put more time into the champion over the last couple of years than I have.
Yeah, I really enjoy her, and I think she's a great, great blind pick.
Mm-hmm.
Where your really your opponents can't really try to counter pick her. Morgana's probably the closest thing you can get. Anyway, these changes are kind of interesting because they have a couple of small nerfs and a small buff as well. So armor down and base damage per bolt on picks. Remember that you fire three little bolts every time you auto or the person that you put picks on that you shielded autos. So this essentially means that every time the person that picks is on auto attacks, it's going to deal 6 less damage, which is not insignificant. Also, a little bit less base armor. But by the time that you have maxed out your E on Lulu, and as support Lulu, you should be maxing E first, you are shielding for 20 more now. So I actually had been misinformed. A couple of people had told me when the patch was still provisional that they were not only taking the damage off of picks, but nerfing the help picks, basically taking shield away from that ability. And so this is the one thing that I actually went to the official patch notes to see which way was correct. What we have here that the shield is increasing is correct. And I thought that the reasoning on this was really interesting. You want to take a guess what it was, Chrissy?
For the passive nerf or the E buff?
For the entire set of changes here, the fact that they reduced the passive and the armor, but increased the shield at higher levels.
Well, my conspiratorial side would thinks it has something to do with like her synergy with like the Doom build with like Athene's or Imperial Mandate or something, or Ardent
Mm-hmm.
Sensor. And then they were like, well, we want to offset her offensive power but boost her defensive power to
No, I want to
compensate.
give the opponents more windows of
We
opportunity.
want to separate
Um,
the good Lulus from the great Lulus, you know?
in a
Am I
butterfly,
close? Am I close?
that's exactly the type of thing they do say, but you're kind of halfway there, right? I think that the synergy with the Doom build is why this is happening. But what happened is they found that she's really, really good in pro play, actually, where laning phase is more important, and she's not overpowered at pretty much all of the levels beyond below really skilled like diamond to pro play. So they wanted to basically hit her early game, which is the most important part of the game in pro play, while keeping it power neutral overall. I find that kind of interesting.
This is
I
really
guess we'll
gonna
do that.
this is really gonna hurt my mid Lulu play. Those autos are very important.
Oh yeah, that plus Sheen, like when you're trying to harass someone as Lane or Lulu, like that can actually hurt like a bee. Yeah, she's actually a really useful mid laner as long as you have a carry jungler or like multiple like hyper carries elsewhere. Something like a Master Yi or a Nocturne, great to have Lulu. Yeah, she is one of the higher skill supports, I would say though. Oh, hmm. I'll tell you what this is though. This is this is like Milio. He didn't just get stopped by the ICE. Like he didn't just get stopped at the border. Those villains at the ICE shot him in the kneecaps, walked away, came back, shot him again, laughed, and left him to die. That's what this is. I mean, so he did not have fentanyl on him. That was a soccer ball. It was not made out of cocaine. Um, but seriously, like a lot of Milio's power is his passive, and they basically just took its effectiveness down by half in one patch. This is after several nerfs he's already had in the past. He got kneecap. He got kneecap. This is. You know what this is like? This is because I mean this passive fired up. This is a good synergy with the Doom build, with Gwynsu's, with Kraken Slayer, etc. Right? It's more on hit damage, and one of his abilities also gives you more attack speed. But this is ridiculous because like they haven't adjusted Gwynsu's on this patch, as we'll see later. They haven't adjusted Kraken Slayer. They haven't nerfed Caitlyn or Tristana, or some of the other champs that make the best use of this ridiculous Doom build. They barely touch Kog'Maw, but no, let's kneecap Milio. He's the problem here. This is like This is like Godzilla is rampaging across Tokyo, destroying buildings, murdering thousands of people with every swing of his tail. And that there's some looters that find a broken building and decide to take something home. And this would be like if the Japanese self-defense force said, you know what we really need to fix here? We need to give people fines for looting so they don't loot. While doing nothing about Godzilla. That's what this is like. Exactly. And they're like, you know what? We're not too worried about the laser beams. The real problem is people looting. Let's give them a slap on the wrist. What are they doing here? Nerf Caitlyn, nerf Tristana, nerf Gwynsu's Razeblade, or nerf Kraken Slayer. Milio? Milio, really? Him? Oh boy. This one's a head scratcher to me. He's probably one of the problems with the Doom build, but he is pretty damn low on that list of problems. The extra range, I'm sure, would help trading patterns, I'm sure. But I would say if the lane trading was really the problem, they would have reduced the amount of extra range that you get or made that a higher cooldown ability. I think right. Yeah. And a good ratio if you build AP. Um, but I'm pretty sure by like the change that they decided to make, that they're just trying to kneecap his ability to support on hit builds. Which it's like the problem isn't him supporting the on hit build; it's the ridiculous power of the on hit build. He just synergizes with it. This is ridiculous. Yep. Well, rest in peace, Emilio. They really keep trying to make Nasus a thing. He's been getting so many buffs in the last few years, and I will say, like, he's at a kind of rough spot right now because I mean he's not in a terrible spot, but I'm saying like compared to where he was a few patches ago, he's in a rough spot because he's so much easier to shred from a distance now. Yeah, I don't think he's a bad champ. I certainly don't think he's weak right now. Even before these buffs. But for whatever he has been over the last several months, where he had all those buffs, where he has had the 12 stacks on large monsters and minions for a couple of years now. He was definitely better a few patches ago than he was now. Because he can be shredded so much more easily by these auto attack. Uh-huh. Yes, yeah, but I mean, often in the second half of the game, you want to send your ADC after Nasus, even before the Doom builds. Like, they're usually the only one who can take the Nasus down, by the time you get to, like, 25 minutes. Do you disagree? Mhm. Yeah, but it's definitely more well, that's what I'm saying, it has always been true, right? Sending your ADC in the late part of the game after the Nasus is the strategy. But now the ADC is really, really good at shredding him because of Gwynsus and Kraken Slayer and all those other on-hit items that give you even more ridiculous bonus on hits. You'd rather have like late game like a Nasus on your team than like a second fed ADC? Oh, yeah, yeah. I was saying assuming you have at least one really good front line, like maybe your jungler Sejuani or something. Yeah, you'd rather have Nasus than the second fed ADC. I would normally agree with you, but I think in this meta, I can't. I can't in good faith agree with that. That's definitely true. Oh, sure. Like the easiest comps are the ones with like, one or two front lines that have like go buttons, the Vi ultimate, for example. The Malphite ultimate. Yeah. Yeah, especially for like coordinated teams that are in comms together, having that go button is great. But even I guess in uncoordinated teams, right? If your Malphite goes in, you know you're supposed to go in. Uh anyway, yeah, Nasus, I mean, it seems like you're just scratching your head on why you got buffed, but I think it's because you get shredded so much more easily now. All right, well, more stats for Nasus and lower cooldowns on his ult, so good for him. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, now it seems a little bit overkill to me. Like this is 70 to 100 extra damage in the late game, just for hitting the ult you were already hitting. It's not like she's at a lack of damage, but yeah, I mean, Oriana, always a fairly balanced champ, pretty much no matter what the meta is. Always one that takes some skill, both on the part of the Oriana player and the lane opponent. And yeah, I don't hate this. I just don't know that she needed it either. Yeah, well, you never really see her play a lot because it's a champ that requires a lot of skill and is kind of a more supportive mid laner, right? Like a lot of people would rather be the wannabe Trashuo carry or something, or the Kiana. Even though the Kiana's way worse than the Oriana. Okay. Mind if I jump in? Mind if I jump in? All right. So basically, these changes are maybe slight nerfs. But yeah, basically they are changing the way that the skills work against monsters to be flat bonus damage against monsters on all her skills instead of multipliers of how much damage her skill was already doing. I have seen several rel jungles in the last few weeks, basically since last patch or rework, and all of them have failed. I think I saw one that did all right, but I saw several that were literally like 1 in 13, 0 and 9, numbers like that. So yeah, a lot of people have been failing on Jungle Rel, and I think they're just trying to make the early game less punishing for her in particular. Even though there are some slight nerfs on her skills here, for example, the full tilt does some less damage. It is worth noting that mid patch 1311, after we did the last patch notes, there were significant buffs to Rel mid patch. Health regeneration, base resistances, resistance growth, damage on her abilities, CC on her W on her knockup, mobility, all better than they were when we did the patch 1311 notes. So even though there are some slight nerfs here, she is way better than she was fresh off the rework. Uh huh. Yeah, I mean, her ganks are all right, and her clear I think was kind of okay. Yeah. Well, I think with hundreds of bonus damage against every monster just for using your Q, your W, or your E, I think her clear is going to become really good, especially against like the Raptors and things like that. Um, yeah, I've seen some success be had with support or top rel. I've seen very little success with jungle rel, although Tyler, our rel master, says that she is pretty good there right now. If you play her very well. Yeah. Oh, what was the buff there? Okay. Yeah, so I mean, definitely, with the relatively short cooldowns that he has, in a long extended trade, and I think they're trying to push him towards that because they are giving him a little bit more tankiness here. In a long extended trade, he will be able to get more skills off, and therefore more damage, as well as more uses of his scrap shield. Um, with that said, they have taken away so much damage from all of his abilities, or at least so much damage from his Q, as well as base values from his scrap shield. That I think they're actually making him a little bit weaker here. I think this is actually going to be a slight net negative on the rework to an already unpopular champion. Yeah. Oh God, I hope it's not like a Prowler's Claw Rumble. Yeah. Generally, unless I, th- I think they're trying to get him built as an AP bruiser or a tank. I think is what they're trying to do. They're trying to push him back into top lane, more so than jungler mid. I don't think they're trying to completely take him out of those. Um, the scrap shield, like if he's at, let's say, like 3,000 health, the scrap shield will be 120 bonus health for his maximum health. You're losing 35 from the base value, and let's say he has, I don't know, 300 AP. You're losing 60 from that, so it's actually neutral to slightly net positive as long as you're building bruiser to tanky. Plus, you're going to be able to use the scrap shield more times because of the heat threshold. I would say that Rumble, unless you're taking on like a single jungle monster, the Gromp or a blue buff or something like that, you're probably not real happy to be overheating and auto attacking when you could be using abilities. So, like the fact that he can use more abilities is good for him. The fact that he's not going to overheat until he's used several abilities is good for him. I just think that damage nerf on Flame Spitter in particular, because the maximum health damage is only against monsters. This is just, I think that kind of alone, combined with the fact that the Equalizer has a much longer cooldown until you reach level 16 now. I mean, 130 seconds? That is a game-changing ult. You want that in every fight you're in. I think this is going to end up being a net nerf. Oh! It does maximum health against champions. The cap is only against monsters. Yep. I think the scrap shield is. Oh, I'm actually looking at it on Wikia right now. It is enhanced by the danger zone bonuses. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're talking 15% of the target's maximum health. If they've got 3,000 HP, and they might have a lot more if it's a Cho'Gath or something. That's 450 damage just from that part of your Q, in addition to the 195 base damage. Okay, yeah. So I'm Yeah, I thought this was actually a big damage nerf. I'm realizing now, if the maximum health um is for champions too, which it sounds like it is, then I take back what I said. This is actually He's going to be really good. The fact that he can use two scrap shields, even three scrap shields, maybe in some of the fights. Um, the fact that the flame spitter is going to just melt through tanks. Yeah, I think he's actually going to be really good then. Which is, yeah, yeah. I think what we're gonna see is a lot of successful Rumble top lane building tankier items. You know, building Rylai's, building Demon Flare, not Demon Flare. Sorry, the one that's like Leandri's Torment. It's basically a second Leandri's Torment. Yes, Demonic Embrace. Thank you. I always forget that damn name for some reason. Um, maybe even going something, a little bit exotic like Heartsteel, against a tanky melee lane opponent. You know, because he does want to basically walk right up into your face to use this flame spitter anyway. You can get an auto attack in. It might Yeah, I could see, especially with the ability for his Q to melt tanks now, that maybe a tanky Rumble build will have a lot of success top. Like you said, I think like a regular Rumble build going mid, he'll probably benefit from this too. Yeah, but look for Rumble to be more tanky in general, and just remember that if you're playing Rumble, you don't bring a lot of CC for your team. So, if your team is really squishy, even though you might be tanky, you might not be a great front line that can protect them. But yeah, I get it, I get it. But if you already have a tank at support or jungle, like a full tank, um, to go kind of like a tanky Juggernaut Rumble is not a bad idea. Mhm. He was below high. I believe Rise had the lowest win rate in the game last patch. Yeah, he usually is. Yes. Right, right, right. But well, not even nobody likes to play him. Nobody can play him. Oh, I don't know about that. I remember in like season like 4 and 5, I would literally just mash the buttons as fast as I can, and it would usually work out for me. No, the order's more important, and like the cooldowns are a lot longer than they were, especially when way back in the day when he had his ult activated for like 12 or 15 seconds or some number of seconds. I forget how many. Maybe it was. Yeah, every time you used an ability, it would reduce the cooldown of his other abilities by 1 second. Yeah, I'm not saying this was his original look. I'm saying this was one of the reworks that I used to play him a lot and just mash the buttons. Really, the one where I just mashed buttons? Yeah, that was ideally what you would do, right? There was like a math to it, right? Like if you're doing it in a certain order, you could get more cues off in particular. Um, Yeah, 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 yeah. But I just mashed the buttons and had some success. Anyway, for this actually pretty huge buff, there's really two things you need to do to know. One, you can basically use your E and then immediately use your W now, because will, it will root instead of slow. And two, they've done basically the equivalent of that corporation that you hate that is going to say, "Oh, we need to synergize and we need to consolidate all of our businesses together." And they basically go out and buy 32 different companies that have no idea what they're doing. And then a year later, they're like, "Oh, we really need to divest companies and focus on our core competencies." And then they just sell off those companies for half the price that they bought them for, or just kill them in the case of like video game studios. I'm referring to the change they made in Arcane Mastery, where they decided we were going to have to make this huge nerf to Rise's AP ratio, change it from 10% to 6%, and then here we are, less than a year later, they've already changed it back to 10%. You know what? If they could at least admit that they're wrong and revert something like this, that's good. I wish they would do that with Kraken Slayer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the ricochet, not only the attack damage being higher, but the AD ratio being higher. I agree. This is a little bit bigger than it looks, and Sivir has been in a really bad spot for really since she's been released. She was released. She wasn't even that powerful, and they just nerfed her over and over again. Nice to see her finally get a little bit of a buff. I think she had one or two patches ago. Sivir is still not a champion I'd want to play in this meta. What do you think? Right. She has a very specific niche of being able to kind of run up close, provide a little bit of mobility, and then hit a lot of people who are clustered together. Let's say the other team has like kind of like Wombo or like just a very close team fight. Let's say they have like a Soraka, um, some type of top laner like Ornn that's usually going to be hanging close to their allies. Sivir is good at that AoE, but honestly, right now, just bring one of the Doom build ADCs and get Runons, and there you go, AoE. uh Yeah, I mean the healing on her ult did feel like it was a little bit much, so I'm happy to see that nerfed. My God, that the whole W passive just being 5% heal and shield power for most of the game now. Yikes! Because this, you and me, the W is not a skill you're going to be leveling early, right? I don't think it is. I think usually that's your last level. hmm But yeah, this is another champ, right? That that did contribute to the Doom builds. Obviously, one of the safest ways that you can just basically heal and shield your ADC and give them all the bonuses from Echoes of Helia, from Ardent Sensor, from Imperial Mandate. Very, very easy to get those bonuses. So that's maybe why she was strong lately. But man, once this meta is hopefully out of style, Yumi's going to be left in a terrible spot. You know what? It's hard to feel bad for Yumi players. Mhm. You really wonder why they even had the best friend mechanic anymore. Yeah, it's like, yep, okay, you can get 5% more or something. Yeah, that was pretty. That was, yeah. So I don't see here where it says that they removed her ability to trigger on hit effects with the Q. In fact, I think the Q is what triggers the on hits. Are you looking at something different than I am? Right, right. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, well, maybe she'll go, maybe she'll go critical on hit now. I don't know for sure. It's always very hard to figure out when they make 32 different changes to Zeri. And here they actually made significant changes. Usually we're talking about shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. But it's always hard to figure out what her ideal build is going to be or exactly what she wants to do with her items. Um, Yeah, she is. So this is, I would agree it's probably a nerf. The fact that she doesn't absorb shields and doesn't get the 10% bonus movement essentially from enchanter supports, that is significant. They gave her 5 bonus movement speed to compensate, but 5 is a lot less than 33, which is 10% of what her movement speed was. She gets a little bit more bonus from critical strike. Her Q can apply those on hits each time. I'm thinking she might go uh critical strike on hit now, basically the Doom build. What do you think? Yeah. She hasn't gone AP for a while, right? Yeah, there was a while I saw her AP series. I'm sure it's still like, a thing you could do, but probably not very good. Anyway, yeah, I'm the saddest about the absorption of shields. I thought that was a cool mechanic. 15 damage. Well, I'm of two minds here. First of all, this is probably a correct thing to do. Remember that you are still getting the 20% bonus attack speed, which is a lot more important in this meta than 30 bonus damage per hit is. Being able to get 20% more of those on hits with Gwynsu's and Kraken Slayer and all of your other things like Aren't Sensor itself is probably the bigger part. On the other hand, again, was this really the problem with the ADC on hit meta? I don't think this was really the problem. This was always found with smart supports who were going with an ADC on hit. But, again, this is probably somewhere in the mid level of the items I'd change way after changing Kraken Slayer and Gwynsus. And and Rapid Fire Cannon too, which actually did get a change. Anyhow, I think Ardent Sensor will still be good if you're going with an on hit ADC. Otherwise, probably skip it. It is a stick of stats. Yeah. What do you think? It's still probably a good item if you can use all these stats, right? Yeah. Not only, great sustain, but 95 attack damage at max level. Yeah. Okay. The Gale Force? Oh, the Echoes. Okay, that's not on my screen. But yeah, I did see that they got rid of the font of life interaction. Yeah, a Xerath, a Zyra. Those are champions that were able to often attack enemies from safe ranges and often able to CC people. So then your ADC just steps up and boom, you trigger a heal of 360 and oh my god, how much? Sorry, a heal of 180, right? And then 360 damage plus whatever damage the ADC actually did. It was pretty insane. The one thing I kind of like about this change, though, at least I can stop saying, wait, how the hell did I get that kill? After I like walk away from a fight and my ADC finishes off an enemy, and then it credits it to me. I'm like, huh? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because the Echoes of Helia damage is credited to you. So now at least you have to heal or shield your ally to proc that damage on a nearby enemy. Before it was like if you happen to slow or CC them, and then your ADC or some other carry went to finish them off, it would proc the Echoes of Helia, and like you'd get the damage, you'd get the kill almost as often as they would, which was not ideal. Yeah. Yeah, this is a nerf to the damage component. It's weird to me that instead of just taking down the percentage of critical strike chance, they decided we want to make it scale on bonus AD instead. Especially given, the head scratching pass on the items that they did a few patches ago to basically make everything a critical strike item. A little weird to me. What do they want to do? Have Gale Force users go Bloodthirster? But yeah, probably what you need to know more than anything else is this is a nerf overall to the damage on Gale Force. If you do want to choose Gale Force as your mythic, try to use it more often than not to make up ground or to get away, to kite basically, because the damage is not going to be what it used to be. Oh, I still see it being bought by almost everybody. I mean, this is still basically 500 free HP in addition to really good attack damage and crit chance and lifesteal. Not to mention, if you're a guild builder, hey, 30% bonus attack speed when it procs. It gives you all the stats you want. This is still a really good item. Yeah, balance. So this is called a change. This is a nerf. This is a nerf. The bonus movement speed is nice. Like that will get you or your ADC away from things sometimes. But as far as the damage, it's called a change. By the time that you have Imperial Mandate, usually a second or third item, you will be doing a lot less damage with this now, because you will be way past the break-even point. Um, on the numbers. You will be doing less damage, but you will give yourself and your ally more bonus movement speed, and that can be nice. I would still call this a slight nerf overall. Mandate is a good item. Basically, ever since they made it a non-mythic, there's this thing that fits into a lot of builds, particularly the Doom support build. Yeah, it was a good idea to unmythicize it. Yep, and I've been telling you for so long that this is crap. It's still crap, but it's not quite as much crap. Like, these are some significant buffs. Yeah, this is a smarter mythic passive, I think, than ability haste was. There was no particular synergy with ability haste with the fact that you were chaining the heals and shields. Um, and in the times where your heals and shields as an enchanter are going to be the most important, which is going to be the early to mid levels, this is going to be doing significantly more. Is it still better than Echoes of Helia? Is it still worse than Echoes of Helia? Absolutely. On almost every single champion in the game not named Soraka. Is it still worse than saying Shirelius? Yes, yes it is. This is still not a great mythic, and I'll tell you why. Because most of the time, if you're actually going to get the chain heal or shield off, it's going to the rule on this is it hits the nearest ally, I think, to the ally that you healed or shielded. It's either that or the nearest one to you. Often that's going to be somebody that didn't need the healer shield. They'll be at full health, they're not being targeted by the enemies in a team fight. Somebody else will need that. If they change this to chain to the lowest hit point ally, that was within, a vicinity of you, let's say 700 units, 800 units, this would all of a sudden become a pretty good item. But really, the most of the time, the only thing that's going to be useful is when you have no allies around and you can heal or shield a single target for 25 to 30% more now. That's going to be its highest and best use most of the time. Locket is pretty crappy. I would say it's better than Locket, but you use it on very different. All right. Right. It still gives you the stats that you want for the Doom build, but yeah, no energized effect to give you bonus on hit damage or effect. And yeah, that's probably why it had to be buffed. I mean, an extra 200 range. An extra 200 range basically lets you get an extra on-hit auto attack in, and get that Kraken Slayer primed up a little bit more before you even get into your normal range to fight, or maybe you can be engaged on. Right. Doesn't Tristana have 750 range at max level? Doesn't Caitlyn have 700? 650, so it certainly gives her 200, even though it was a little bit high there. It's 35% bonus range. 650 times 1.35 is about 890. Oh, I forgot about that. You're right. It is capped at 150 bonus range. Okay, but still, that's pretty good. That does still give you an extra on hit in most cases before you can even be in engage range of any champion in the game. I'm very happy to see the damage reduced to 60 on this. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen this built on almost every winning champion in the game over the last two patches, and I think it was overpowered, and I think it's still probably strong. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's not a big change really either way. I'd say the intention here was probably to reduce the wave clear in that mid game when you maybe buy it as a second item or even a first if you're a Trashua brother. That's probably what they were going for here. To give you a little bit more wave clear, so you can either compete with a wave clear champ or roam more. Otherwise, this is pretty insignificant. Are you surprised by the lack of a Yomu's change here? I thought it was pretty slight. I could be wrong. Okay. My- Less lethality, I think it was. Yeah. It was still a lot of lethality though. All right. Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off. Let's go to runes. Yeah. Yeah. This is starting to become pretty bad for ADCs, and I know that ADCs like to build this line, obviously. So I don't even know if they have real good options besides overheal in that slot, do they? I don't remember what's in that slot either. Uh, okay, yeah, Triumph is decent for ADCs. That's probably what they're gonna have to go now because this is not gonna be good for ADCs anymore. Bruisers, yeah, Bruisers will still be able to use this all right, but tanks usually don't have enough lifesteal to or any type of like direct healing to really justify being able to do overheal in the first place. There are a few that do. Certainly someone like a Mundo or something could use this. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think there are too many tanks. I think this is mostly going to be for bruisers and maybe your occasional champ like Vladimir now. Yeah, no, this will definitely be good for some champs, and I think the bruisers will continue to be all right with it. Olaf. Yeah, the problem with Olaf is most of his healing comes when he's low on HP. Like the overheal gives you the shield once you go above your max. Oh, that's true. So when he comes out of the jungle to fight or gank, yeah, that's a good point. There's a few champs that'll be happy with this. Yeah, well, that's pretty insignificant, but the slow is not insignificant. Yeah, but anybody who's gonna be getting this, because they're gonna be like a physical damage auto attacker. Um, Anybody who's gonna be getting this already has ways to regenerate their health. The jungler already has ways to regenerate their health. I'm wondering if maybe they nerfed it because there's more red buffs on the map now with the changes they made last patch, where you can share it even if you're not Ivern. Yeah, I haven't been given too many buffs either. No, 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 no. And it happens. Like, there's a lot of ADCs and junglers on the same team getting the red buff now. And red buff has always been a mechanic that, as a mage and support player, I haven't liked because it's basically like taking away my ability to make a good escape because they can slow me with basically every single hit, and it just feels so bad. So I'm certainly happy to see the slow reduced here. You think it's unnecessary? I mean, it's certainly the most like powerful thing you can get from a regular jungle camp. It's a lot more powerful than blue buff. Congratulations, you won the lottery. Here's 300 bucks. Uh yeah, yeah, it is kind of sitting on top of a bunch of nothings. You're right. But I don't know. Like I consider red buff to be powerful and kind of a really feels bad thing for a lot of champs that they get targeted by it. So good riddance to it. Mhm. It never does. I gotta say though, like as we've kind of discussed them one by one, as much as I think they missed making changes on the most important things, most of these changes are in the right direction, at least. Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of Rumble for better or worse now. A bunch of people don't know how to play him. Are gonna be just insta locking him for the first few weeks. I absolutely think so, but at the same time, I do think that kind of once the bad players shake out and decide they actually don't want to play Rumble, I think we'll see some success with tanky Rumble top. Well, sure, those are the people you're gonna know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want to take this into Aurelia or Jax. All right. Well, if you see a Rumble, let us know how it goes. See you next time.